Hey there, welcome to my channel where I take you on tours of tiny and creative spaces. In today's video, we're traveling to California to meet one talented young designer who lives and works out of her 280 square foot tiny house. She's cleverly designed the space so that she's able to work without sacrificing on the gorgeous interior design. I think you're going to learn a lot about small space design from this tour because there are so many good ideas. And if you like these kind of videos, please make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know every single time we publish a new tour.
Will you join me? Will you roll? Make this house our tiny home.
Hello, my name is Denise Bayron. Welcome to my tiny house. Bienvenidos a mi casa. This little house is 280 square feet, and I've lived here for 3 years, 3 very joyful years. It's an ADU, so it's an accessory dwelling unit, and it was built on the footprint of the original garage. I share the side yard with my neighbors that are in the main house. We look out for each other, we take care of each other. I have a chosen family, and my neighbors have been absolutely delightful. If I were to purchase a home in this community where I'm living now, the average home price is about a $2 million barrier to entry. In this phase of my life, I'm renting a tiny home and saving money so that I can buy a home in the future. But living tiny has given me the opportunity to have the lifestyle that I desire, but also living within my financial means. Another thing I'd love to share that's happening right now, because it just hit the shelves, is I have a cover story in Vogue Knitting magazine. I design knitting, sewing, crochet, and macrame patterns that I sell online on my website. And I also travel the world teaching those 4 crafts. I live a very small life, pun intended. And I spend my days making things by hand. And what a blessing it is for me to be able to pay for my cost of living by making things from scratch, to then sharing the process of making it with other people, and how that brings joy to someone who suddenly turns a ball of yarn into a garment that they can wear for many years and pass on to their children. It really is an incredible way to live. Making clothing can be a mindful act about dressing your body in a way that makes you feel good and makes you feel confident, which then allows you to move into the world with that confidence. We are in my garden. I'm really blessed to have this area for my private use. Really creates a cozy space to welcome all of my friends and family. Welcome. Today you're part of my family. I moved to California for the blue skies and access to the ocean, and so obviously I'd like to take advantage of the outdoor space. I reached out to a company called Article that is based in Canada and asked them if they would consider sponsoring some furniture for me. So I got all of this beautiful furniture that is made of acacia wood so that it's outdoor friendly. I custom sewed covers for all of the furniture using vinyl shower curtains. So that's pretty cool. I also have a fire pit, and because I'm in a dense city, I specifically wanted this model because it's smokeless, or as smokeless as a fire pit can be. And so my friends and I are able to order taken sometimes and set it up on the table and sit and be together and yet not be on top of each other. And so the fire pit and candles and plants and flowers just make it a really beautiful ambient space to be in. And I've moved these with me from my previous tiny home, and it's been really nice. They're just like my little friends that keep growing, and it's like having family members that grow with me as I move throughout this city. plants make me happy, and every day when I leave the house and when I come home, it's like they're my welcoming committee, my hype friends that tell me, you're doing a good job. So yeah, these are my friends and I love them very much. You've seen my garden. Now, let's see the real reason why you're here. Let's see the inside of my tiny house. Entren, están bienvenidos. When we enter the house, you will see that I set up my space in zones. So in this corner, I have a sleeping nook. Then I've got a lounge space, a work area with my desk, and a sewing table. So I design clothing for a living. I'm wearing one of my dresses right now called A Dress for Everybody. One of my favorite architectural details of this house, and what made me decide that this was my home the moment I saw it, were the skylights, because natural light is flowing into the space all day, followed by the internal windows. This little house is on the footprint of the original garage, and the owner is an architect. So he knocked down 3 out of 4 walls of the garage and rebuilt this little house as an ADU. I really wanted to have the feeling of an indoor-outdoor lifestyle. And when I first moved in, one of the first things I did was put up this shelf over my workspace. While it does house some of my work supplies, for example, these 2 baskets and a yarn swift, most of it is plants. When I'm feeling stressed, when I feel a little bit of anxiety, I will pull out a ladder and get up there and water them and talk to them, sometimes sing to them. It just adds a lot of warmth and coziness to the space, and it's part of my daily routine to care for my plants. I set up my desk right underneath this window in this little nook because I wanted to have the natural light from my window pouring on me throughout the day. And it just feels good to sit in this spot. I spend the bulk of my time here working. So it's been a cozy spot to work from, and one where I've had a lot of inspiration. It's been a good space for me creatively. When you live in a tiny house, it's really hard to hide the not pretty things that you need for everyday life. And so you'll see my kettlebell and my little weights in the corner, a bolt of fabric and a yoga mat, a tripod. I tried to hide them, disguise them with a pretty tree. But in this corner, we also have my sewing table. I'd love to have a separate sewing studio, but that's not in the cards in this moment. It's coming, I'm manifesting it. But for now, I made the best out of living and working in this space. And so I have the table that every tiny house owner has. I purchased it at IKEA. It's a solid wood table with 6 drawers on each side. It flips up, and so I'm able to open it to a full dining table size and put my cutting mat on top of it and really work and make a giant mess in this space. But the convenient part of it too is that when it's open, I can tuck the sewing machines underneath it, and I can use the table as a dinner table, which I've done many times. And so having dual purpose furniture in a tiny space is a really good idea. When I first moved into the house, I really had to think about where I wanted to place my bed. And so I wanted to create a sense of privacy by placing a credenza along the length of the bed. What it does is that it intentionally directs the flow of the room so that my guests will walk in and naturally walk towards the sofa. And it tells my guests that I'd like this to be my private and personal space. When I first moved in, I placed all of my things in wicker baskets because it had to be pretty, right? I quickly learned once we got into the wet season, when it rains here for several months, that you can get ants and bugs. So, not so pretty, but definitely practical. I went to Target and I bought these plastic bins. And in these bins, I'm able to organize and separate all of my supplies. A lady should keep her private things private, but now I'm just putting all my business out in the streets. I wanted to show you how I store my shoes. I like clothes, I like fashion, so obviously I love shoes, but I have limited space. So I keep these 2 shoe racks tucked underneath my bed. They are color-coded. I have other areas in the house where shoes are tucked underneath dressers and credenzas, but this is my main shoe area. This forces me to be intentional about what I buy, and so I have a one in, one out policy. If I buy a pair of shoes, I will donate or dispose of a worn out pair of shoes. And so having a physical limit for how much I can own really helps me to be intentional about how I spend my money so I don't overbuy shoes. So I also keep an elliptical tucked underneath my bed. It's the smallest elliptical I could find. I can pull it out and I will turn on a YouTube video or a movie every day and do a 20-minute little cardio workout. Now we're at the only closet in the house. So I've selected a few pieces to show you. The majority of my wardrobe was made by me. But I've also, shall we say, padded my wardrobe with vintage pieces. This, for example, is a vintage silk Chanel gown. I have a cover story in Vogue Knitting magazine, and I was wearing this gown. And then other garments are garments that I've made. This shirt, for example, is a linen shirt that I made when I taught a sewing class. Now that we're in the bathroom, you can see I have a shower. These built-in shelves have been a lifesaver. I wanted to add a handmade piece to the bathroom, and so I designed and made this macrame plant holder. Then I added another little shelf here to house my little clock to make sure that I show up to places on time. It's a really comfortable place to get ready in the morning and then to wind down in the evening. I've made a morning routine where every day I hand pour my coffee, and it's become a little ritual. And so even though the space is really small, it still feels homey, and I'm still able to build in little rituals that make it feel like it's mine. I have a 2-burner gas stove. You know, I don't cook very elaborate meals. Sometimes I cook my meals. Sometimes, honestly, I eat frozen foods. And then sometimes I will order a meal delivery service. I've got this, what I like to call child-size fridge. And I keep the essentials like non-dairy milks and juices and fresh fruit and non-dairy yogurts and things like that as my daily supplies. And then I'm able to pad my meals with the other methods. In this country, we think that our value is shown in our material belongings. But as someone who loves beautiful things and appreciates beautiful things, I'm still choosing to keep it on a very small scale. And that allows me to be authentic in my intention. Making a deliberate decision to live in a tiny home just means that I'm being true to myself. It's a give and take, and I'm making sacrifices, but I'm making them consciously because I think that the benefits outweigh the sacrifices.
I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon with another tiny or unique home tour.